Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lone Vic and today a fresh arrival from Kickstarter at my doorstep just a week ago, Rolling Heights from Alderac Entertainment Games, a game by John D. Clair. This time, John D. Clair designed something completely different. We'll be playing a game of, or we'll be learning how to play a game of constructing your city together with other players, and the best constructor will obviously win. This is a game for 1 to 4 players, and in this video I will be talking about the rules for a multiplayer game, explaining the setup and all the rules. So without any further delay, let's dive into the setup part for Rolling Heights. And let me just mention that if you like the videos on my channel and if you would like to support what I'm doing here, you can always click the like button, hit the subscribe and ring the notification bell below the video. You can also leave a trace in the comments if you have any questions or any opinions to share about this game or any other. And if you feel like it, in the description for the video, you can also find a link to buy me a cup of coffee. And now let's check it out. Okay guys, so let's talk about the setup first. So as you can see, I've already prepared everything. I will take you right now through every step of the setup one by one so that we know what's going on here on this table. So first, we've got 6 neighborhood tiles, as you can see here, already spread. And let me take one out of here. As you can see, each of those tiles has a side B and a side A. So what you do is you use, for a 2-player game, you use all tiles on the A side. For a 3-player game, you randomly select 2 B sides and 4 A sides. And for a 4-player game, you have 3 of each side. You randomly flip the tiles so that you have the appropriate amount, and you randomly place them around in a 2x3 grid, like I did right now. This is a setup for a 3-player game with 2 Bs and 4 As. Here, on one side of this grid, you place the scoreboard, and along the scoreboard, you build those level 1 and level 2 market tracks, paying attention that the arrows face in the appropriate direction in both cases. And also on the reverse side of those elements, you have level 1 and level 2 written, so you know which ones belong to which row. Divide all the buildings that you got with the game into 2 categories, level 1 and level 2, and place them in the stacks near the appropriate markets. So level 1 goes here and level 2 goes over there. Draw out and place 9 tiles from each of those markets. Sort all of the resource cubes into their groups, and for a 2-player game, remove 25 of each of the 4 colors. For a 3-player game, remove 13 of each of the 4 colors, and for a 4-player game, use all the cubes provided. Store the meeples that are provided with the game somewhere nearby. I tend to use a box or a bowl. In this case, I will use one of the boxes provided with the game because I won't need all for this demonstration. I tend to just have them grouped in some way. If you want, you can have them sorted. Place the wild tokens, which have 1 VP on the reverse side, somewhere near the board in easy access. Take the advertisement tiles from the box, give them a good shuffle, and select 3 which you will place on the scoreboard in the designated spaces, like so. You can put the rest back into the box. Shuffle the provided target tiles and give 2 to each player. The unused ones can go back into the box. Each player chooses a color and takes 18 of their ownership markers into their pool, takes the scoring marker and places it on the 0 space on the scoring track, and also takes 1 of the 4 provided boxes, or trays to be honest, and fills them in with 2 brown carpenter meeples and 2 gray construction worker meeples. Decide who the first player is and provide them with the first player marker, and in reverse play order, so starting from the last player, each player will right now select 1 building from the level 1 market and place it on the board. Now, there are a few rules here. A player can choose any of the face-up building tiles from the level 1 and place it on any land, but not a water space. But you can only place these plans on land spaces that do not contain these price symbols on them. So they have to be completely empty. However, if you place your building on a square that contains a reward of victory points for a specific type of building and the building type on the tile matches that space, you will automatically get those victory points at the start of the game. The other rule is that the following players, after the last in-turn player places their building, the next player counterclockwise, while placing their building, has to place it further than 2 orthogonally adjacent spaces from any other player's tile. So for example, if I place my building over here, then no other player can be adjacent to my building or can be 2 orthogonally adjacent spaces, so 1, 2, or 1, 2, or 1, 2. So the next viable building space is, for example, here, or here, or here as well. When the player places their starting building on the map, they also place one of their ownership markers on that building, like so. And once the board is populated by one building from each player, you slide down the market to fill in all the gaps that were created. So you fill in the blanks with new tiles, and we are ready to start the first turn. So let's talk about the general overview of the game. In Rolling Heights, players will be tasked with placing blueprints of buildings onto this city map, and they will be erecting those buildings using one of the 4 resources provided by their worker meeples in order to complete those buildings and score points and other effects from the tiles. Once you place a blueprint and your ownership marker on it, only you can add resources to that blueprint and only you can complete that building. The game ends once one of the resource pools runs out, so all of the blocks of one color are on the map, and this is the time when we add these orange blocks as a replacement for the resource that ran out, and we can continue using those. But this also means that we trigger the end of the game, which translates into finishing the current round and doing one more circle so that each player has played an equal number of rounds. So now that we know what's the general overview of the game, let's talk about the game turn itself. And the game turn for every player consists of 4 phases. Now, a preface here is that once you get familiar with the game, you will be able to figure out which of these phases all players can do simultaneously to streamline and speed up the game a bit. But for the first play or 2, I suggest doing them one by one for each player. So when your turn comes up, the 4 phases for you are prep, risk, main, and cleanup. Let's talk about prep right now. So in the prep phase, you take all the meeples that you possess. So in the beginning of the game, those are 4 meeples, 2 brown and 2 gray meeples, so 2 carpenters and 2 construction workers, and you'll be getting more meeples by completing buildings usually, and different colors of those, and you will be rolling those meeples, hence the name Rolling Heights, into the tray that you were provided. Now, if at any time in the game you enter the prep phase having more than 10 meeples in your collection, and this will happen quite often, you have to choose 10 that you will be rolling in the prep phase. You can't roll more in one turn than 10, so some of your meeples will be benched, let's say. But let's say we've got 4 right now, or if you had more, you've selected up to 10, and you roll them into the tray, like so. And now, as a result of this roll, there are 3 positions the meeples can land on. The flat-laying meeples are called exhausted meeples, and they're too exhausted to work, obviously, and we leave them as they are lying here right now. If a meeple, and I will zoom in the box right now for you guys, if the meeple, I hope you can see this, landed on its side or on its head, then he is called a working steady meeple, and you take this meeple out of the box and place it in your pool, taking care not to flip it to any other side. If the meeple lands on its feet, like so, this is called a working hard meeple, and you also take it out of the box and place it in your pool in the same position as it landed. If any meeples land on any other meeples, and their position is clear, whether they're flat, so exhausted, or working hard, or maybe working steady, then you take them out as they are. If a meeple, however, lands in a position that could be either flat or working steady, for example, you will be re-rolling those meeples. Okay, so I'm taking out my one steady worker right now, and the prep phase says that as long as more than half of your meeples that you rolled at the beginning of the prep phase remains in the box as exhausted, you roll them again. And as you can see, I've got another steady worker, but this time it's a construction worker, so I take him out as well. And now I've got half of my working pool exhausted and half of my pool out of the box. And this is where the prep phase ends. And once the prep phase ends, you go into the risk phase, which is a push your luck phase. Now, you can do it, but you don't have to. So in the risk phase, you can force your workers to work more efficiently by taking this half that's left of the exhausted workers and try to roll them again. But the condition is that if both of them, or all of them to be honest, depending on how many you are, how many is a half of your current workforce for this turn, if all of them are still exhausted after this additional roll in the risk phase, your workers go on strike and you have to lose half, rounded down, of the meeples that you've taken out from the box during the prep phase. But if at least one of those meeples that you forced during the risk phase lands as a working steady or working hard meeple, you take him out as well, and you can try to risk it again. You can stop this at any time, or you can decide not to risk at all, but, well, that's the risk phase. If your workers go on strike and you lose half of your working force, you gain one wild token from the supply as a compensation. And this is the second phase already done. So let's say that I've got my 3 workers working after pushing them once in the risk phase and one is exhausted. Now we are going into the main phase of the game. And in the main phase, you will be spending your workers that are working steady or working hard in order to collect some resources or execute some other actions. You have a few options in the main phase and we'll go through them one by one. First, you can always use wild tokens, the ones that you collect, for example, for the strikes or from any other sources, in order to use them as any single resource that you might need during the game. Unspent wild tokens will give you 1 victory point each at the end of the game. During your main phase, you can purchase, you don't have to, but you can purchase only 1 building plan from market level 1 or 2, both are accessible all the time, by paying the cost, which is any resource. So any 1 resource, any 2 resources, any 3 resources, or any 4 resources on the other side, taking the tile and placing it on the map. The placement rules state that those tiles can be placed next to the buildings you already own orthogonally. So for example, here, 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 or here. If you place a building on a tile that has victory points with a matching symbol to the building type you place, here on the right side of the tile, you get those victory points. If the spot that you want to place your building on has a cost requirement, you need to pay this additional cost as well, apart from the cost from the market strip. And if you want to place your building further than neighboring one of already owned buildings of yours, you need to pay one resource per each square of distance counted orthogonally. So for example, if I wanted to purchase this plan, I would need to pay one resource here, and if I want to place this plan here, that would be the end of my action. I don't need to pay anything more, and I just add my ownership token here. However, placing this building here would cost me one additional resource because of this land. Placing this blueprint here would grant me 2 victory points because this is a factory symbol and there's a factory symbol here. And if I wanted to place this building plan here, I would need to pay an additional cost of 2 for the terrain and also an additional cost of 1, 2 for the distance from my closest building. So that's it when it comes to buying and placing new building plans. Now let's talk about activating our meeples. And all of the activation rules you can see here on the scoreboard. So there are 4 meeple colors that provide you each of the resources that you have in the game. So if you use a carpenter brown meeple, you will get the wood, the brown resource. And if your carpenter meeple was taken out of the box in the working steady position, so on his side or on his head, you will get 1 resource. And if it was working hard, so it was placed on its feet, you get 2 resources of this type. The same goes for the gray construction workers, which provide the gray resource, which is concrete, and also the transparent white meeples, which give you glass, and they are called architects, and the riveters, who give you steel, and this is the last 4th blue resource. And also the same amount depending on working steady or working hard state of the meeple. Now there are 5 more colors of meeples that we need to talk about in this game, and the first one is the magenta meeple, which is the executive. Now executives provide you with spending power, which is marked by those gold squares, as you can see on this space, and a working steady executive will provide you with 2, and a working hard executive with 4 spending power. And this spending power can be used to replace any of your resources when you are purchasing a tile from the market, or when you are paying the cost of a terrain or the cost of distance. The only time when you can't use your spending power is when you want to place the resources on your blueprints. This is where spending power doesn't work. Unfortunately, there are no markers for your spending power, so you need to keep it in your head, the number of spending power that you have and the number that you've spent. Now, the next meeple is the politician, and this is the yellow meeple. Now, if a politician is working steady, you will get 1 victory point automatically. If a politician is working hard, you will get 2 victory points automatically. And that's it. The next meeple is the public figure meeple, which is this transparent purple meeple, as you can see. And if this meeple is working steady or working hard, you can use any one benefit of a building tile that you own and you've completed that connects to those purple meeples, and those effects can be different. Like, for example, this 2nd level building, which if completed, so if you have 2 free and 2 wood on it, will allow you to gain 1 wild token for a purple steady working meeple and gain 1 victory point for every 2 wild tokens you have if the purple meeple is working hard. But take note that every building can be used in this way only once per turn. So if you have 3 purple meeples which are working for you in any capacity, either steady or hard working, you would have to have 3 completed buildings with those effects in order to use those effects. The next meeple that you can roll and gain in the game is a city planner. And now the city planner, if it's working steady, allows you to reroll once all your exhausted workers during your main phase. So all the ones that are remaining after your prep phase, or even if you pushed some of your workers during the risk phase, all the remaining ones can be rerolled once thanks to this steady working city planner. And this cannot cause a strike. However, if the city planner is working hard, you collect any one building plan from any market and you place it anywhere on the board regardless of distance restrictions. You still need to pay the cost of the terrain if there is any, but you don't have to place this building next to your buildings and you don't pay the cost of the distance between this building and yours. And the last meeple is the public servant, which is the green meeple, and this green meeple, if it's working steady, provides you with one upgrade, and if it's working hard, provides you with 2 upgrades. And now an upgrade means that you can take any other meeple that you already rolled and have, or the exhausted ones from the box, and upgrade them to the next state. So for example, you can use one upgrade to upgrade one exhausted meeple into a steady worker, or a steady worker into a hard worker, or you can use 2 upgrades to upgrade an exhausted meeple into a hard worker, or 2 steady workers into hard workers. You get the drift. Okay, so you can activate your meeples at any time during your main phase, and each activation means that you lay your meeple flat because it's already exhausted, because it did something during the turn. So right now I could lay all my 3 meeples flat, and because all of them were steady workers, I would get 2 concrete and 1 wood. This would be my profit from these meeples. So we know how to activate meeples, and we know how to buy and place the building plans. We also know about the wild tokens and that we can use them replacing the resources. Now let's talk about commodity trades. Commodity trades can be done during your main phase, also in any amount you want. You can exchange any 2 resources that you have in your possession for 1 glass, 1 concrete, or 1 wood, or any 3 resources for 1 steel, so the blue resource, which is more expensive than all the other ones. And finally, 2 last things that you can do during your main phase is construct buildings and complete buildings. Constructing buildings simply means that you place the resources of the appropriate color onto the spots on the building plans, and each spot on the building plan is color-coded to correspond to one of the 4 resources and also has a number. And the number says how high of a stack you need to create in order to complete the building. So you can place any resources in your possession on the buildings that you own during your turn. There is no limit to that. And when you satisfy the requirements of all the spaces, like for example, here I would need 3 wood and 2 wood, so 5 wood pieces all in all, you've completed the building. And once you complete the building, you take your ownership marker and place it on one of the stacks to symbolize that this plan is completed, and you collect all of the rewards, be it new meeples, victory points, spending power, maybe wild tokens, or any other effects. Any meeples that you collect, you add to your pool for the next turn, and you'll be able to roll them or select into this group of 10 that you will be rolling. And the last phase of your turn is the cleanup, in which you return any unspent resources into the supply. Nothing is kept for the next turn, remember that. Any spending power that you've earned from your meeples or game effects is also lost. You gather all your active and non-active meeples for your next turn, and you slide down the building plans on the market to cover any space that was created by you taking a tile. And there is one important thing here, that if you are sliding down the market, be it level 1 or level 2, and these 2 first tiles do not move because you didn't purchase them in your turn, you add a wild token to them, and if anybody collects those tiles later, they will also collect wild tokens. But this only happens if the market was used in this turn. So for example, if I didn't purchase anything from here or from the second level market, I don't add anything to these tiles. If I purchased this tile and the market slides down and I would add a new tile from the stack over here and these two didn't move, I add 2 wild tokens over here. I'll return this over here. But I do not add anything to the second level market because that one didn't move. So remember about that because it's an important way of collecting wild tokens. And the game, as I said, is conducted turn by turn, those 4 phases for each player, collecting victory points, building buildings, and collecting resources, rolling your meeples until one of these 4 resource colors runs out. When this happens, remember to add these replacement orange resource cubes in the place of the resource that ran out. And this also means that you finish this turn up until the last player and then play the last turn in the game, and then you go into the scoring phase. And right now let's talk about the scoring. So during the scoring part, it's very simple. You will add the points that you've collected throughout the game for building buildings and, well, mainly for building buildings and rolling politicians. You will score 3 ads. Each player will score all of the ads that we have here and gain points for those. Next, each player will take both of their target tokens, and you can look at them during your game, so you know what's on those tokens, but nobody else knows what you have. You select one of those tokens and score it at the end of the game, and you discard the other basically, so only one of those 2 will give you points, and then you get 1 point per every leftover wild token that you have in your possession. And the player who got the most victory points obviously is the winner of the game. Okay guys, so this is it for an overview of Rolling Heights. I hope that this clarified a bit how to play this game, and you will know how to approach it once you get it onto your tables, when the package arrives from Kickstarter or when you buy it in retail. Because it's a very interesting game and I encourage everybody to give it a try. And if you have any questions about the rules, if you would like to know something more, if you think I've omitted something or made a mistake or you need some clarifications, check out the comment section, leave your question, leave your comment over there. I'm sure to reply to any queries that are there. And for now, thank you for watching my video and thank you for visiting my channel. My name is Lone Vic. This was Rolling Heights from Alderac Entertainment Games, and stay tuned for other of my how to play videos and reviews of games or solo playthroughs which are coming regularly to my channel. If you would like to support what I'm doing here and help me grow, click the like button, click the subscribe under the video, ring the notification bell as well, and in the description for this video you'll also find a link if you feel like buying me a cup of coffee. And for now, this is it. I'm hoping you're having a great day. Rolling Heights, Lone Vic. See you soon. Bye bye.